Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm going to be installing the Ride Vision 2 kit from Ride Vision, who are a company based in Israel. Ride Vision is an advanced motorbike safety warning system. It comprises of 2 HD cameras front and rear, some LED warning lights that go on the rear view mirrors. There is a computer brain module which goes in the centre of the motorbike usually, a GPS module and a speed sensor front wheel. That pretty much in a nutshell covers the bits and bobs of the motorcycle. Works in a similar way to like a car where you know, in modern cars where you get the little orange LED lights built into the wing mirrors, and it kind of tells you if someone's in your blind spot. It will also give you anti-collision LEDs if you're about to hit a vehicle in front. It's a really good bit of kit. I'm not going to go over too much of the use of the thing today because this is just an installation video, but just going to run through the bits in the kit and the installation process today, which may well be very helpful if you've purchased the kit or thinking about purchasing the kit, or you're just interested in the technology of it and how this kit works, because it's a really clever bit of kit. Just going to run through before I install it all the bits that come with it. So got the main brains of it, the computer bit, which goes on most motorcycles underneath the seat. It's got all your plugs for your GPS, your cameras, and the lights, etc, and it's got a fuse on it. You've got 2 of these HD cameras, one for the front, one for the rear. You've got the choice of 3M adhesive mount or screw. Now on my motorcycle particularly, I'm not going to be fitting the rear camera in a conventional manner because I haven't got enough mounting locations on the back of mine, because it's got a tail tidy. There's very little plastic on the back. However, I will at least put up a photo on the screen of a conventional mounting method, so you can see that of how you'd do it on a bike that's got more mounting, you know, options. You've got a speed sensor. There's not much to that. Yeah, there's a couple of different options for mounting the speed sensor, but I'll go into them on the video. You've got these LED light bars which are really cool because they bend to shape, because quite often, as you can see, I don't know if you can see on mine, the mirrors are not a straight or circular shape. You can bend them and they'll give you all your warning lights for front and side collision, and a GPS module. So you'll see more of it in detail on the parts as we install it. We're going to get straight into it. Right, I'm actually going to start with the rear camera on this. You don't have to necessarily start with the rear camera. Like I said in the beginning, however, my bike is quite unconventional, so I want to get the mounting secure of the back camera first. Quite often you have a bit of plastic or something more substantial on most motorcycles to mount this camera. However, on mine you can see it's got the tail tidy. The seat comes up to about here, so there's literally no brackets or space to mount this, because you need to be able to, once it's mounted, move it up and down to get it completely level. So it needs to have a little bit of space around it to level it off. Also, Ride Vision say on their installation that it needs to be at least 70 centimeters off the ground, so it's going to have to be around, you know, number plate level or so to get it mounted correctly. I've run through a few options with the CEO at Ride Vision, and the preferred method for my particular bike is to have it perched just over the number plate like that. Now ideally you want to have this centre mounted. I'll put up a screenshot now of how it should be mounted to a bike in a traditional way, where you can mount it with, you know, the bracket mounted underneath something, not obscuring obviously the number plate. Also, you've got to mount the camera on something that doesn't vibrate. Now my license plate, my number plate in the UK, is a pretty solid metal bracket. There's not much vibration in it. I'll just show you guys, there's a little notch, I don't know if you can see it here. You can rotate the camera in the mounting bracket. That's got to be pointing up to the sky all the time. So you can mount this upside down with the bracket there. You can mount it this way up. It doesn't matter which way you mount it, you can rotate the camera. So they give you the option of 3M adhesive tape, and also on the back of this there's a little mounting screw. Now, as I said on mine, it's quite unconventional. Normally you just mount yours upside down to something or something like that. I've got to flip mine round on the number plate and mount it this way, so the side that's touching the number plate either needs my own sticky tape, or what we're going to do in my case is drill this little hole out bigger and try and put it through the number plate bolt. It doesn't matter if it's coming across at an angle, because I can rotate the camera straight. So all sounds a bit fiddly in practice. That's just I've got myself a drill bit ready that's basically approximately the same diameter as a number plate bolt, Going to try fixing it to that if there's enough room. If there's not enough space to mount it from the number plate bolt, then I'm going to be using my own Gorilla double-sided weatherproof tape, which is super strong. But anyway, we're going to get straight to drilling this bracket out, which is not something you normally need to do. However, you might need to. If you've got a towel tidy, this might be a good option for you. Now obviously I've taken the common sense of removing the camera before doing this to prevent any damage to the camera. Try and show you again. I'm not sure if you'll see the little hole. So I've put it on a bit of foam. I didn't have a bit of wood to hand. It should do the job. We're going to try and drill this hole out a little bit. Seems to be going in very easily. You can see the hole starting to form there. I would suggest doing this in a vice clamp if you need to make this modification. Whoa, because of that reason. It goes through, it's going to snatch, but I'm an idiot, so don't follow my advice. And we're through. I'm going to take the 3M off the back. If I ever need to mount it another way, I'll just buy some more 3M tape. But beautiful looking hole there. I've lost the bolt out of the kit already. That's my fault. I've dropped it, so I've had to go to get a replacement. Normally you get a nice short bolt that comes with it, but on the back of that I've got an oversized one, but it is what it is. Right, let's have a look, see how this looks. It slides on there nicely. Now it's on a ball head, so you can move it. It's whether it just fits. Wow. Do you know what? I think that might actually work. It's going to be a bit difficult for me to tighten the bolts because they're right up where my finger is here. Right guys, after a lot of messing around, what I'm going to have to do on this one is there's a slot. I don't know if you can see the end of that drill bit there. That whole section where the number plate bolt goes through is a slot on the back of the number plate bracket. So I'm going to drill through the number plate from behind. Basically, I decided to put a bolt to the left of the number plate bracket to give me a little bit more clearance. Now I can either put a bolt head between the bracket and the number plate, which is going to make the number plate a lot more uneven. So I'm going to drill through the number plate and later replace it with a yellow bolt, but for now I'm just going to drill from behind through the number plate bracket and create my own bolt for a mounting location. I've left the number plate bolt in, so I've got the right location, and my idea is I just go through here and hope that it doesn't hit one of my 3D letters on the back. Oh yes, just missed the letter. Literally just missed the letter O. So, alright guys, so there you can see I've got a bolt slightly to the side of the number plate bolt, and that has given me enough clearance to get it relatively level. I will check the levels at the end just to make sure when the bike's upright that the camera's still level, but that's about as best as I'm going to get it on this particular bike. Obviously if you can mount it to a better surface on yours and in the centre. I'll show you quickly now how the levelling works. Just before I show you as well, this is how the camera looks on the top of the number plate. It could have been done slightly tidier, but it's definitely on there. Really nice and sturdy. I'm going to have to run this cable up underneath this panel and come out somewhere under the seat next. I'm not going to bother showing that because we're going to move on to the next parts. You get this little spirit level attachment to level the camera front and back. That just pops over the front of the lens like that, so. Right, as you can see, the bubble is currently at the centre position with this spirit level tool put on the front of the camera. So I'm just going to remove that now and get that off. And there we have it. There is finally the back camera installed. That's why I wanted to do that first on this install, because I knew it was going to be a bit of a PITA, whatever you want to call it. But I'm happy with that. It's not ideal. Obviously you may be able to do it in a more easier way. That was a bit of a learning curve to get that camera there, but I quite like the position. Once the seat's on, it's going to cover all this bit, so there's not much room for anything on this with a towel tidy, but I'm happy with that. Right, I am going to show you guys quickly actually how I run the cable. I managed to get the cable to come through this little hole here in the back towel section and run underneath this metal trim so it can go directly to this area. If there's extra cable, I'm either going to bunch them up next to these other bunched up cables. I don't want it to get in the way of any seat mechanism. I believe there's one there, so they're going to be tucked out the way. The hole underneath the plastics I had to drill because there wasn't anything. Obviously that's a place that can get quite wet and muddy, so I'm going to put a bit of silicone on it later. Right guys, rear camera done, so we're going to move on to the speed sensor on the front wheel now. There's two ways to do it. There's having a magnet stuck on the rim of the wheel. I'm not going to do that method. If you want to check out that method, look at Ride Vision's videos. I'm going to be doing the method where you mount it to the bolt on the fork and it reads the bolts as they spin round on the actual disc. It's quite interesting that it doesn't actually use a magnet, and the sensor is clever enough to just pick up on the metal bolts. You later on in the app will put the number of bolts on the wheel and then it will calculate the speed. You've got two mounting brackets depending on which one works best for the position. First things first, I'm going to take off this bolt and have a look at how we can fit the bracket behind that. I'm just trying to pull the plastics back now to expose the gap between the fork and the plastics. I'm going to wedge that in and then get the bolt back through here. I'm not going to fully tighten this yet because I might need to change the angle. There's not a lot in it. I need to put the speed sensor on this now, figure out roughly where I want it positioned. Just to recap, we've removed this bolt and then we've slid the longer version of this bracket up behind the plastics between the fork, and that's the metal bracket coming out here. Now the actual sensor itself has got two bolts, so you can move the sensor in and out. You want a 2 to 3 millimeter gap. So as you can see from that angle, the one on the inside is going to be a lock ring. Just spin that off. This nut behind is the one that's going to give you the distance. I would say that's pretty close to 2 to 3 mil. It's a very slight angle, so I want enough room so it definitely clears the disc. You don't want it hitting the disc, you don't want it too far away, so between 2 to 3 mil is great. Just need to get some spanners and tighten that and then check the gap. Right guys, don't forget to check your gap between your speed sensor. Mine's coming in at 2.8 mil and it's said between 2 to 3, so I would say that's about perfect. Right, we're going to be fitting the LED lights on the side mirrors now, so we're going to take you in to see that. Do not forget guys, give the area that you're sticking any self-adhesive to a really good clean with alcohol wipes. Now I'm going to run it so the one with the wire closest to the inside is going to be my left one. Before you take the adhesive backing off, just make sure you're happy with the position with it. Peeling the 3M tape off if I can get to it. Make sure you press firmly for 60 seconds. Right guys, you get a little sticky pad that holds this cable down to the mirror. It goes about here. I can't find the original one in my package, I'm sure you have yours. I seem to have misplaced mine. This is a very similar kind of thing that I use on my e-bikes, so I'm going to bend that to shape. Right guys, that was a bit of a mess of this because I've lost the, it's very simple, it's a very simple plastic self-adhesive thing that just holds it to the back of the mirror. I've replicated that with some similar but probably not quite as good. Right, so I've just been told that you can cut this little tab off the back of this end LED light, which I've done with a pair of snips. It just lets you get a little bit closer into the mirror of the fitment. There's these little tabs on the back in this very end one. I don't know if that's easy enough to see. I've removed that so now I can get a tighter fitment, so I'm cut that off if necessary, bend it to shape, bend down this to shape, and then when it's all cleaned with alcohol and been washed, then stick it on. Right, we're going to move on to fitting the front camera now, which is going to be way easier because my bike's like a normal bike on the front end. Camera and the bracket are pretty much identical. I'll take you in anyway just to show you where I'm mounting it. I'm going to mount it just underneath here so it's poking out just below the front lights. It's a lot easier to stick this. It is kind of at a V shape on mine, so rather than put it on the ridge and have it wobble about, I'm putting it slightly off to the side where it's flatter. You definitely want to stick this to a flat surface. I'm going to use a self-adhesive tape to stick it down. I am also going to put a screw in there just for extra peace of mind. You don't need to do that, but I think I will put a black screw in there and just mount it here, which is really nice and straightforward, so I'm not going to show you too much about that. I've also to mention, obviously I've wiped this with alcohol wipes and it's now dry, so yeah, just get to do that. Right, I'm going to cable tie the cable just here, just to allow enough slack for the bars to turn. I'm ready to feed the camera cable through the frame. Now you get one extension cable for one camera, which is fine because wherever the computer is based is going to be close to one camera on the bike. Now I've got my rear camera close to the computer on the back seat, so I'm going to use this extension cable for the front camera. Pretty straightforward, you get a male and a female end, so you can't go wrong with it. So I'm going to connect that up now and feed that through to where the computer is going to be located near the back seat. Right, going to stick the main computer module under the seat compartment now, because I'm going to be ready to start connecting together all the different parts of the loom soon. Trying to figure out where there's space to put this and all the cables. Now, before doing that, you need to remove the main fuse until it's fully set up. So just pop the cap off like so, and pop the fuse out. Very stiff. There we go, finally fuse out. Pop that fuse somewhere safe just till the installation's complete, and it'll go back in at the end. Right guys, I think I'm going to squeeze this just inside this compartment here, which I've wiped out with alcohol wipes. Just about slides in here. So I'm going to stick that there and try and mount the GPS module, this, in the little space that's left. That should just about fit in there. Remove the tape off the backing. Give that a firm press down. It's pretty tight, but it fits. I might cable tie them to keep them away from the seat catch. Obviously careful not to bend the cables too much. About there will be good to keep them away from any mechanisms. Again, just peel the backing off the 3M adhesive tape. Make sure your surface is nice and clean. Right guys, so we've got the loom which I've run through the frames to the back, which connects the front camera and two indicator LEDs. The only thing left to plug in now is the indicator LEDs, which will probably only go in one way. I don't think it matters which one you plug into which side. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I asked and he said it didn't matter which side you plug these in. Right, we're going to do a soft install now of plugging and connecting everything up, including the power. I'm going to do like a soft install because I don't want to put everything tidy and put all the petrol tank back on before realising something's not connected right. So we want to check everything's working. You do that by connecting everything up and then turn ignition on, and you should get a green light on the computer module, and the light should flash 5 times on the mirrors. So we're going to move on to the back of the bike now and complete the final stages of the wiring. So the loom that I just showed you, it's got the mirrors up here plugged into it and the speed sensor. Those 3 plugs go in. This loom currently goes through the frame along here. That's the other end of the main loom, which carries the 3 signals. This is the CCTV camera. So I've got those 2 to run to the back, but I've just got to here so far. I'm going to plug them in loose for now. Right, about to connect the 2 cables that I just spoke of. First one's this white plug. Just clunk that onto there. The camera's got a male end coming from the front camera extension. Going to push the male onto the female and screw up the collar. Right, and the blue one for the GPS, that is all plugged in. So the only thing left to do is to wire up the black, red and yellow. Now these are very simple. Black and red go straight on the battery terminals. Yellow has got to go on an ignition live. Right, going to use a multimeter just to show you where I found an ignition live. You can try your fuse box to check for ignition live. The 4 cables that I checked in my fuse box weren't ignition live, so just going to plug this onto the battery now. So we've got earth this side. Don't know if you can see that there, it's coming out of camera. 12.29 volts at the battery. Now ignition live, I've tried this little fuse box and most of them are permanent live, so I did test I think this wire earlier. Just going to push that inside this connector. That's showing no volts and the ignition's currently off. Just turning the ignition on and earthing it. There we go. I'm getting 11.95 volts out of this red wire here. So in the kit you get these, depending on the gauge of the wire, you get these little taps which tap into an existing cable. They just simply screw on and bite into the cable and allow you to join them up. I'm going to connect the battery first though, the black and the red. Positive and negative straight to the battery terminals. Nice and straightforward. Right, I'm going to pull the sleeve back. I'm just going to check which one's most suitable for this tap. That's quite a tiny hole I can see on that one already. Got a feeling this is going to be the better cable for this. There's a little slot in there. There's a little slot, I'm not sure how well that's coming out on camera. Push that over one of the wires. Wire that you want, slide it along a bit. Not sure if you can see that. And then you've got a little spike which screws into. I'm going to turn this at a bit of an angle because I don't want it sticking up towards the seat. I'm going to have mine positioned about here. Screw it down. That should be it. So take the top off of this one. So what we're going to do is, I might strip a bit more off of that. I might want that stripped a bit longer than that is. Alright, so we're going to feed that through the top cap. Put a little bit of a curve on this. Feed it down into that tube, leaving just the sheath of the cable on the outside a little bit. And just start screwing the top down. And that should tuck in nicely in there, and that should be it. Apart from putting the fuse back in this, I'm just going to check over it. That should be everything ready to just turn it on, check that the green light comes on, and yeah, hopefully we've done everything correct and it should fire up. Just before we test this out, see if it comes on, now's a good time to replace the fuse. Make sure the key's out of ignition until you're ready to turn it on and test it. There we go, fuse back in. Right, I do believe we're ready to test. So if all's gone correctly and it's wired up, I should be able to turn it on now and you should see the lights on the indicators flash 5 times. So let's put the ignition on. We're waiting. I think it said 15 seconds. Fingers crossed. Oh, there we go. Success. She's wired up correctly. I'm so happy with that. I'm actually going to do it one more time. So ignition off. Put the key in. Ignition on. So after the lights have flashed 5 times, another thing you can do to check it's all working, leave the ignition on after the lights have flashed. Check the Wi-Fi on your phone and there should be one called iRide with a bunch of numbers. Then you know the system's wired up correctly and it's all working. Everything's installed. I've run all the cables neatly, bunched up all the spare extension cable for the CCTV down here, run all the power cables, GPS cable, everything. I'm quite happy with that. It's pretty neat install. So now we're finally ready to move on to the final calibration stage. It is almost done. Right, we are ready for the final stages of finishing setting up of this product now. So what I didn't do on camera was I had someone sit on the bike and I measured the height of the centre of the camera lens from the ground. And it's important to do that with a bike in an upright position. I've got my son to help me, sat on the bike. I've written down the measurements, so when you go to the app there's a few settings you need to have first before you go to the app, and camera height is one of them, so I've done that already. I'm about to have him sit on the bike and level the cameras for the final time with the spirit level like I showed you in the beginning. That needs to be done front and back to make sure when someone's sitting on it now that it's level. And there's a few things you probably is going to make life easier if you write down before opening the app. So first off, the password for the Ride Vision Wi-Fi, which is 12345678. The other thing you're going to need is your front tyre size. For the speed sensor, you will need to write down your front tyre size. You need the heights of front and back cameras off of the ground. Where the speed sensor is on the little bullets or rivets or nuts on the disc, you need to write down the amount of little nuts or bullets or rivets, whatever it is you had it pointing at on the disc. If that's the way you've done it, you need to write down the number of those and have that written down ready. And I think that is about it. So like I said, I've already taken down the measurements of the height of the camera lens. Very simple to do. Have someone sit on the bike, measure them. We're going to get my son on the bike now and run through the final stages. Right, as we can see, my son's now sat on the bike holding it upright for me, so I'm going to begin leveling the cameras. Also, don't forget you need to have the little notch of the camera upright. If it's not, rotate the camera in the mount. It's a good idea to check it a second time as well. Alright, as you can see, the bubble is exactly in the centre. That is the front camera done. And now just repeat the same on the back. Right, down to the final stages now, guys. So basically all we need to do now is go onto the Play Store or Apple, wherever you're on, download the Ride Vision app, choose between the Lite and the Pro. I've downloaded the Pro version. I don't think it costs any money. I think you get a few more features with it. Then you need to activate and calibrate the Ride Vision kit. So I'm going to run through all of that now. I've already downloaded the app. I'm going to register and log in. I'm not going to go through that because it's going to be fairly straightforward like you would on any kind of app, and we'll get to the next step. Okay, registration literally took a couple of seconds, just email address, name and country. Then the first thing you get is ask you to turn on your Bluetooth, and now I'm going to switch on the bike. Obviously at the moment it's saying unit not found because obviously the bike's just turning on still. So I'm going to click the rescan button. There we go, it's found the Ride Vision kit. That's always a good sign. Select your unit. I pressed on the number of the unit. I'm going to check unit update just to make sure there's no updates. You have an update waiting, download upgrade, allow, downloading the update. Whilst we're doing that, up in the top corner here is a Wi-Fi icon. You need to connect to the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to click the little Wi-Fi. Right, it says the new version downloaded successfully. Please connect the unit to the Wi-Fi to continue this process. So there is in the top of this phone screen a little Wi-Fi icon in the corner. Click that. Scanning for Wi-Fi networks. Maybe I need to stand a little bit closer. Hold up. Right, make sure you're close enough to it. Switch the Wi-Fi on. Scanning for networks. Right, when you find the network, you need to put in the password, which is 12345678. It's always going to be iRide and a bunch of numbers for the Wi-Fi. Standing by the back of the bike so I don't want to lose connection. Checking the quality of your connection. Now I'm connected to Wi-Fi. I can flash the unit with the Wi-Fi update. Right guys, we're going to move on to the final bit. There's a little icon and cog up there for the settings. Click on that. And then we're going to click on unit settings. Down the bottom of the list you'll see unit calibration. This is where you need to have someone holding the bike in an upright position. So Luke, would you like to lean straight on it? Straight as you can, straight in the front wheel a bit. Keep the bike level, the road's a bit on the lean. Perfect. Right, unit calibration time. First screen, put in the tyre size, not just the wheel size, the tyre size. In which my case is 120/70/17. Obviously it's going to be different on your bike most likely. After putting in the tyre size, it asks you the type of speed sensing that you've got. For mine I'm going to put bolts. Now this is where you put in a number of bolts, like I said, 5 bolts. Then next, main unit calibration. You're just going to click I'm ready. The person's, your assistant has got to keep it upright. I'm ready. Next. Just say that you're sitting on it and it's balanced. Oh look, we have got front camera. So front camera Camera orientation is up, you can flip that if it's upside down I guess. And then down the bottom, camera height, which for my front camera is, because I wrote it down, 75 centimeters on the front of mine. Obviously you measure yours, it's going to be different for every bike and every install. Just tap in 75 there. Click next. Exactly the same thing again for rear camera. Right, so rear camera 82 centimeters. Just scroll through the different heights. Get to 82. Click next. Calibration complete. Also, just want to point out that the unit is fully updated now on the latest version at the time of making this video. And that should be it. Congratulations for installing your Ride Vision kit, and to myself, because it's the first time that I've ever had to do this, and it's taken me much longer having to film this. So don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're not already. Coming up within a week of making this video, I will do a ride video demonstrating obviously the use of this when it's set up and working, and how it is out on the road. So don't forget to hit the notifications for that video, and I'll see you guys in a video soon. Take it easy.